Okay, coming back for round two here. Adam's got a few things to say to you. All right, here we go.
Hi, I'm Adam with Ground Up Inspection, your inspector at this lovely home here. So I wanted to just go over one thing here, just because it is a major defect, and to kind of explain, it is pretty normal, really, for the Pacific Northwest, but it's something to be aware of with this house because it does have wood fiber composition siding. So that was what's on the outside of the house, commonly used here in the Northwest from like '89 until about 2002. And it's a defective product here, primarily because it's wood fiber based. So you can kind of look at it as like cardboard with paint over it. So as soon as you start getting any caulking deficiencies or lack of maintenance due to failing paint, it starts to swell and absorb that moisture. This is actually in pretty good shape for a 93, but it's about a 95% failure rate. So if I find a house that has this type of siding on it, it's almost always I'm recommending replacement. And so even though it looks pretty good, the problem is even in areas that look okay, there's high moisture content, and what happens is that moisture gets held inside the siding, and it actually starts to wick through the vapor barrier and damages the wall sheathing behind. So you can kind of come up a little bit closer here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And this hasn't been maintained real well. Fortunately, it has some pretty good eaves, which has kind of helped protect it. So what happens is when it rains, the rain washes down the front of the siding, and then it wicks up the bottom edge, because the bottom edge is where the paint often doesn't get applied well enough. And you can see that on here, where the paint is cracked and the boards are starting to swell. And so I use a moisture meter, and going in common areas, below the eaves where the rain really hits it, and below windows, not having to scan too far, I can find spots with high moisture. It kind of picks up. That's not even that high there, 26%. Let's go down a little lower and see what we can find here and see if I can get a good spot for you. But I was getting some spots that have up to like 80%, 90%. This isn't necessarily a good wall. The south wall gets hit the worst. So there is a lot more failure, signs of failure in that south wall. Again, this is common, and it's just something to be aware of that this house has this. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about repairing this. If you got evaluation by a siding contractor, likely they're going to recommend full replacement. Again, that's primarily because they don't know the extent of the damage behind the siding itself. With the symptoms that I'm seeing, I don't suspect that there probably is damage behind the siding, or if there is, probably nothing significant. So two different options: repair or replace the worst sides, which is primarily the south, and seal and paint the rest, or just seal and paint the whole thing. And I didn't find any rotted sections. There is a product called Permalizer Plus, and I'll add that to your inspection report, which is specifically designed for use on wood fiber siding. And what that is, it's kind of a rubber-based compound that you brush on the bottom edges. So you're basically encapsulating these bottom edges with this Permalizer Plus, and then you seal, recaulk all the seams around the windows, and then you can paint the outside as normal. I think that this siding is a good candidate for that repair process, but it is a tedious process because you're brushing the whole bottom edges of every single board all around the house.
I think you'll probably have some pictures in your report that show the bottom edge for him, right?
Yeah, I've got some pictures. I've got some pictures of the high moisture readings that I got, and I'll have a lot of description in the report. But in the report, it's going to look and be listed as a major defect. So it's just wanted to give a little more emphasis and explanation on that and kind of the reality of that concern. It's definitely, so far, I haven't gotten through the whole house, but it's not a bad house from the looks of it. That's something that's reasonable to negotiate, but I wouldn't necessarily not buy it because it has the siding on it. But that's obviously your determination and what you're willing to deal with. But I just wanted to give a little more clarification on that, because when you see that in the report, it's going to look bad and it's going to look scary because it's going to be listed as a major defect. But we can always talk about that too over the phone. If you want to call me or text me or email me, and we can always chat a little more. Or if you need like referrals for a contractor to get somebody out here to try to get an estimate on replacement or repair costs, I can shoot some names your way on that too. So, good. That's all I got there for the siding. Again, wood fiber siding, common manufacturers. If you want to Google it, just Google wood fiber, LP, Masonite, or Weyerhaeuser. All three manufacturers had defect issues, along with class action lawsuits and recalls, which is all way past gone now, and have all been settled. But you can find a lot of additional information on the internet on that as well.
All right, thanks, Adam. There we go.